COVID, and they want to begin to make an argument that they'll make more next year about why Congress has to return to Republican hands. It's obviously difficult to make that argument in the face of needed relief for so many people, and especially when you're giving away money, which is going to end up being pretty popular to most people.
Why didn't Senator Johnson object when President Donald Trump ran up the debt by $7 trillion? I mean, again, this newfound commitment to fiscal responsibility. It's just it's a joke now. It's a joke after the last 4 years. You can argue that this isn't targeted enough. I mean, there are legitimate arguments, obviously, on both sides. But now you care about things like this. Here's what's in the bill that we know of right now. Americans will be getting those $1,400 direct payments. But you have to now be making $80,000 or less. So that's less than originally was planned in this bill, okay? So the Democrats have come down on that. They will be giving that $400 a week boost, unemployment assistance. Small business assistance, which obviously Republicans talk a lot about, will be in there. There's funding for schools and state and local governments. Obviously, Republicans talk a lot about wanting schools to be completely equipped to open and have kids back in there. And then funding for vaccine distribution, which we all need. And so David, when Republicans say, well, we didn't get what we want in this bill, so it's not bipartisan. But what's the difference? I mean, what's the line between having to settle for not getting everything you want and obstructionism?
Well, I think there's a couple of different arguments. One, the fiscal responsibility argument doesn't carry a lot of weight, and I don't even think that Johnson is making that as much as he is trying to look. We've had bipartisan COVID relief bills, right? And Republicans will say, oh, well, this is Republican unity in the face of something we don't actually need. There's still leftover money from previous bills. States and localities are doing a little bit better. But this is all an argument that is being made to a conservative base to say, look, things are getting better on the virus. This is just liberals in charge doing too much beyond some of those things that you outlined there. But there's a couple of points that are really important. Vaccine distribution, which is obviously required, is stepped up by this administration to get to the vaccine distribution where it is, which is better than expected. That's vital. Getting kids back to school has been a goal, but Donald Trump just said, get back to school. Now there's more effort to actually put money behind doing that, including vaccinating teachers, which has become a political reality that the administration has to do to get schools to reopen. So these funds are necessary, and Democrats have had to scale back. The minimum wage increase is not in here, and lowering requirements for who gets this direct money.
It is worth noting, as of now in the latest polling, this measure has approval with 62% of the American people. That's pretty high. Sungmin Kim last hour noted that one of the things the Republicans are trying to do over the next few days is drive that number down. If they're going to try to obstruct it, they need it to be less popular than it is right now. We'll see if it's successful. Something else that's interesting that's happening is that Democrats are trying, I guess still, the White House is still trying to convince Lisa Murkowski to get on board, and apparently her vote is still up for grabs here. But David, it does strike me that after the votes that they've had on a number of things up until this point, including the George Floyd Policing Act, the Voting Rights H.R. 1 in the House, the Democrats have real reason to think now, the White House does, that there are not available Republican votes at all for some of the priorities they want. And Joe Biden promised unity, but it may be that there is not any compromise available on almost anything they're after.
I think that's right. I mean, this seems very similar to the first 100 days of President Obama and that stimulus relief, where you just had a united Republican front because they made a decision to say, we're just not going to work with Democrats, period. And that is the strategy. Next year's election is basically this year's election.